What up? This is your boy DJ EFN. You might know me as a drink champ, but first and foremost, I'm a proud father. I linked up with two of my other dad homies, Manny Digital and KGB, to start the Fatherhoods podcast. Each week, we bring you insider hip-hop stories, parenting, and advice and therapy. The saying is true, it takes a village, and we humorously serve as each other's trusted counsel in figuring out how not to screw up being a good dad.
The Fatherhoods Podcast. Beats, rhymes, and diapers.
Yo, Fatherhoods fam, when you're out and about with your baby and they start wilding out, what do? Most dudes are fumbling through the traditional baby bag their lady prepped for them, trying to find that one thing that will calm the kid down. That doesn't have to be your life. Dig no more. The firstborn diaper backpack from Fly Dad has over 21 compartments to have everything right where you need it to be for you and your baby, and keeping you fly through the process. Get $20 off when you visit flydadgear.com/fatherhoods. All right, tonight we're joined by a gentleman who dabbles in the photographic arts. Actually, he's a big-time photographer, in my opinion. We recently had him do some work for us for the Fly Dad brand that you guys might have heard about on this podcast. Did amazing work, taking some product pictures of our debut product for that. He's got his own photo studio, taking, amazing flicks for a bunch of recognizable brands. You can check him out at Ireland. You're gonna have to tell me because I had it and I just forgot it.
It's all good. It's IrelandStudios.com.
Okay, that's where I was going. Damn.
You forgot that, bro?
No. I was like, no, I'm missing something. So it's IrelandStudios.com. Amazing photos in there. Please go check them out. With us today is our buddy Tim Ireland.
Awesome.
So I didn't really mention a part of why you're here, other than the obvious that most people might know. You're a father, but you've been on a crazy journey the last year and a little over a year now, with your eldest, your 5-year-old son. He's still 5?
Yep.
Yeah.
He'll be turning 6 this summer.
Okay. So I think I want to start there, right?
And so wait,
yeah.
You guys, this is kind of randomly found this out after you started taking the product shots, right?
Yeah, we were just
Hired
chatting.
him. Okay.
Yeah, we were just chatting.
Yeah. So actually, let me tell you the genesis. So we're just having a casual conversation, talking about the different looks we want for the photographs, and I guess we were talking about fatherhoods, this podcast, and just bro dadding it up a little bit, and then Tim mentioned I had a really rough year, and I'm kind of like, you want to tell us more? And it felt like he was like not really too comfortable, which after finding out I totally understand. But then he opened up, and I honestly, Tim, I don't know if you noticed, but it almost brought me to tears. Like I was, and you and. I just felt the strength about you when we were having that conversation. Like you were like almost like, yeah, it's been rough, but we're good right now. Like things are progressing in the right direction. So that gave me.
Yeah, there were the days where it wasn't like that.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine. So why don't we talk about? I don't even because cancer. Well, we're going to talk about cancer, but there's so many different types. I don't even want to pretend like I have a clue, right? I know what you've told me, but can you tell us a little bit about what that journey has been like over the last year and some change?
Yeah, so it was right around December 20th or something like that. Right around Christmas is coming up, and I came home from a shoot, and my wife was like, "Look at Milo. He looks a little funny. Like something's weird." And he was sitting on the couch and he was just breathing like really deep, like having trouble breathing. So then everything else was fine. And it was just, you're a parent. You're like, all right, my kid's doing something weird. Like probably we'll watch him for a little bit, and then, we'll take him to his pediatrician. So we brought him in. I think it was a Friday is when I saw him. He was like that. We waited over the weekend, brought him in on a Monday, and that was the 23rd of December. and pediatrician, did all the things, listened to his lungs and all that stuff, and told us we probably should go get an X-ray because maybe he's got pneumonia, like real deep pneumonia. And we went to a City MD place, one of those. They just, because it was nearby, like walked over there, got an X-ray, and the technician just looked at me. I was just me and Milo. And he said, "You're getting in an ambulance and going to an emergency room right now."
Wow.
And you're like, okay. Like,
you're like, Christmas is 2 days away. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Wow.
And I mean, at the moment, I'm looking at this X-ray, and I'm obviously not a doctor, not a technician, none of that stuff. I'm a photographer, so I understand imaging. And I know that the lungs are supposed to be black.
Yeah.
On an X-ray, they're supposed to just be black, clear, nothing. And his whole right side was just white, the whole lung, the whole lung. So I knew something was up.
Damn it.
But I mean, it could have been pneumonia, it could be anything. You don't know. So we ended up at the emergency room, and we're at the hospital until the end of January, early February. We didn't leave for that whole time. It was crazy. Yeah. So that was like sort of the beginning.
Your wife was pregnant at this time, right?
Yes.
With your third child.
Yep. So we were kind of just found that out. I can't remember exact timing of things, like if we'd already told people.
And we're in COVID at this point, or
this is last year, right?
This is last year, so not COVID yet.
2019.
Okay,
so,
right before.
We find out we're pregnant.
Okay.
And then so with the 23rd, we went in overnight. And then at some point, someone said, we're going to bring in the oncology team. And it didn't register with me at first. It registered with my wife immediately that they just said oncology, which is cancer.
Cancer, right.
And it didn't register with me at first. And I looked at it and I went, what, did they just say oncology? Like, what? Huh? So then 2 days later, after Christmas, actually, was when we got the actual diagnosis. And that was the most intense feeling I think I've ever had in my life. A lot of screaming into pillows, just uncontrollable emotional responses. Nuts. It was nuts. And then, just like my mom, actually, I'm a lot like my mom, turns out. I went into go mode. All right, here's the situation. It's this. Okay. And you just put on the blinders and you're like, all right, what's next? What do we got to do? How do we keep this from getting worse? How do we fix it? What do we do? Boom, boom, boom. What's next?
How long between the sheer, what the fuck and the scariness and the whole, the emotional aspect of things to, all right, I got to focus. How long was that transition?
I don't know. You'd have to ask my wife, but it felt like 2 days.
That's fast.
Yeah. And then there are the moments, you tell somebody else that's close to you about it and you lose it.
Yeah.
Because, so that lasted for a long time. It still happens sometimes. It happened recently. Milo, hopefully I can hold it together right now, but he kind of looked at both of me and my wife and he said, I'm really lonely because I don't have any friends who have cancer.
Oh.
Yeah. You're like,
yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know what though? There were amazing people at the hospital, this social workers, and they gave us names of some other kids who were his age with cancer, and we did Zoom play dates.
Wow. How did that? I mean, did you feel him get filled up again a little bit from that?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, he's looking at this other kid with no hair, looks the same as him. He's got a port, he's got a port in his chest.
Yeah.
It's this way they put the medications in and stuff. And, some other kid with the same thing, a little 5-year-old, going through it.
That is brutal, man.
So that's sort of the genesis of the whole thing. And then COVID hit.
Yeah, that's a double whammy.
It was crazy.
So wait,
I want to at that point. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to ask you about your wife through all of this.
Yes.
Because
that's where I was going, actually.
Oh, okay. Go.
Yeah. Because what happened was, of course, COVID hits. Before that, we were like taking turns going to the hospital. I'd be there for like 4 days, and then we would switch, and she'd like stay there for a couple of days. She was obviously getting more and more pregnant, so it became more annoying for her to like sleep on a hospital like bench basically. So I started going more, but then COVID hit and she wasn't allowed to go because she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was that for her. I think it was really tough to not be able to go. And at the same time for her thinking like I had to go all the time, like for every visit, for every single thing. Like we were going 4 times a week for a while, like 4 days a week, go to the hospital, 4 days. Yeah. And then Milo had some good, he had some good complications too. He was, the nurses joked that he's like the complication kid.
Damn, that's not a fun joke. What the fuck is going on? I would have punched the nurse in the face.
At that point though, it was further on and everything. And you get this point where you're just like,
need some laughter.
You need some laughter. And it was ridiculous. Like he just got one thing after another. Some of them were really dangerous and serious, and some of them were just like, "Oh God, we have to deal with that." Like seriously, yeah. Like there's like, some steroids they have to go on, and they blow balloon up. They call it balloon face. I got pictures of him. It's like literally his head looks like a balloon, and it goes away. But like, didn't recognize my own kid. Oh, it's wild, man.
And so he was 4 at the time, or
yep. Yeah, so he had a birthday,
and then you've got a young, and he already had a younger sibling.
Yep, little brother. Yep. So
and then your wife was pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Man, so with his younger brother, when this is all going down, and then you guys are trying to juggle the hospital and the pregnancy, how is that working out with dealing with the younger brother too?
Yeah, he was home with mom. And he couldn't come to the hospital either. So it was a good like month and a half that didn't see his brother. He's little though. I mean, he was 1.
Yeah.
Right.
And
what? And it's non-Hodgkin's, T-cell non-Hodgkin's.
T-cell non-Hodgkin. So I mean, that's the other thing too. So I guess in the grand scheme of pediatric cancer, if you're going to get cancer, that's like the one you want to get because it's treatable. I mean, that's,
it's crazy to have to hear
crazy things, right? Here's I'm saying it, but if you're going to get cancer, they caught it. We caught it early. It was in it's a blood cancer. So they like talk about it differently and not like stages. It's more like levels, and he was like a level 1. But this mass that had formed, it's not a tumor. You can't like take it out. It's different. It's like a mass of cells, but not a hard tumor. They call them like the hard tumors, like the blasts and stuff where you can like take it out. This one you just shrink it basically, but it had crushed his entire lung and was pushing on his heart. That's why he was breathing like that.
Oh my God.
It had collapsed his lung. Yeah.
Damn.
Just like your brain just kind of like goes in the craziest directions, especially as like you talk to other dads or other parents and they're just like, what?
Yeah. No, like everything kind of gets put into perspective, because I remember feeling this way after I learned that from you, like, about what you just described. Like I was like, and I'm reminded of this, I feel like every week when you hear something else about somebody going through some other stuff, it's like your problems are so minuscule in comparison to like what so many other people have to deal with, right? And not only that, but like all the different layers that you and your wife and your kids had to go through, right? You got,
it's wild,
pre-COVID, your wife's pregnant, you got a kid in the hospital, and you got one at home. COVID hits, all this cancer shit's going down. Like how much support?
Then a new baby.
Yeah, and then your daughter.
And then we decided to buy a house.
Right, of course, because that's what normal people do.
Yeah,
that's what you do.
They move in the middle of a pandemic when you rush into the hospital.
And a new baby in the pandemic as well.
Yeah. But for you guys, that was a almost like a sanity move, among other things, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had run out of room. We already had been deciding we were going to move before everything happened. But it definitely put a fire under the whole thing. Like, a safe place for Milo to be, outside during COVID with a, basically no immune system.
Right.
Learned so much stuff that I never thought or ever wanted to know about. But, there's all these blood numbers and stuff, like what are the good numbers for platelets? What are the good numbers for hemoglobin? How do you determine what your immune system's doing? And like, what number is that? And all these tech terms and stuff that
is the depletion of the immune system due to the cancer or to the therapy? The
therapy, the chemo. Yeah. And that's sort of the idea. They try to because part of it is your immune system going into overdrive.
Yeah.
Right.
Is what's happening. And so you basically just knock the immune system out.
So
right.
he's been doing chemo now for about a year.
Yep, just over.
Yeah. And then the expectation is he's going to be doing it for another year or so, right?
We've got another, I think, 18 or 19 months left. Daily chemo. Yep.
Daily.
Yeah. It's like it's basically like they call this part maintenance. And essentially as far as they're concerned, the cancer is you either can call it in remission or it's gone, it's dead. But they just, from all the studies and all the stuff they've done over the years, like his routine that he's on, they say that, another 19 months of this and then they can stop and it shouldn't come back.
Right.
So he's just on this low dose thing that basically keeps his immune system just on the edge of they kind of balance him on this little edge, this little knife edge for a while. So, but his hair's grown back. He's feels pretty good most of the time. Every once in a while, there's there are these different medications he goes on in cycles. And every once in a while it'll hit a point where he took this medication and then a little higher dose of that one because they move a little and he'll feel like dirt for a couple days. Yeah.
Is he homebound or is he in hospital?
Oh, he's home. Yes.
Okay. So how do you manage knowing that his immune system is, it's not 100%?
Yeah, we've been wearing masks before the pandemic was a thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what about, do you guys get nervous with the younger kids? Because they're not probably in school at this point, that's a good thing. But just generally kids bring home all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. What's happened, and anecdotally it's been corroborated by pediatricians, is that kids are not getting sick this year.
Yeah.
Because kids are home, kids are wearing masks. Even when they're out with their friends, they're wearing masks to the playground and stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't had a cold. No one's been sick for a year in our house. It's crazy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's really wild, actually. It's kind of weird.
So, facetious, it's this is kind of the perfect time to have to deal with that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because the immune system doesn't need to worry too much.
Yeah, we got lucky, I think, with that in a weird way. All of a sudden, everybody around us was wearing masks.
Does he go outside, take him around anywhere, or you just you gotta pretty much keep him close to home?
We go to the playground, and if there's too many kids, we leave.
Yeah.
When he wears his mask all the time. We've got a little neighbor next door, and they'll play. And just everybody masks up.
Yeah.
And they, for a while it was really scary though. So the way the numbers work, you, me, normal people it's called the absolute neutrophil count, fancy stuff, the ANC. Normal people, it's around 6,000. That's the number. And for a while his was 0, literally 0. And right now he's about at 1,600. So between 2,000 and 6,000 is you're pretty okay. You want to be at the 6, and he's at between 12 and 1,600. So he's got an immune system now. It's just not very good.
Yeah, it's too strong yet. What about his diet? Like, what have you had to change in order to try to offset some of the negatives of his treatment?
Oh man, I think we got lucky with him, to be honest. He's always sort of been really in tune with what his body needs in terms of nutrition, like in a weird way. Like,
I mean, the fact that he was able to tell you, I feel lonely because I don't have friends with, like,
he's an interesting kid.
Yeah, he's in tune.
That's pretty profound. Like, I think most kids would have just been like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah,
like,
or I'm bored. Or
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely a cool kid. We learned a lot from him over the year. But certain drugs, he'll like crave things. Like he did this whole in the beginning, he was on dexamethasone, which you probably heard about because Trump was on it.
Now that you said that, yes, I remember.
But and he went even more crazy because he was on it.
Right.
Yeah, it does that.
Oh shit.
So he was on that stuff, and man, that was when he went balloon.
Oh wow.
Based, that drug. And no joke, this kid would house like full on giant bowls of pasta with this at the hospital. It was this like red sauce that had so much garlic in it. He started to like sweat
Garlic.
no, but he would eat like these, big plate, like 3 of them. He couldn't stop eating. It was like uncontrollable. And then he'd wake up at like 2 a.m. and be like, I need a cheeseburger. And you'd be like, we don't have a cheeseburger. And he'd have like a full meltdown.
Oh man.
Out of control, like roid rage, steroid, like out of control. Yeah, we hate those drugs. Those are the worst drugs he's been on. Like,
he still has to take them periodically?
It's a different one. This one's called prednisone, but it's a steroid. But he like does that one in pulses. It'll be like right after he has to get these lumbar punctures. So he gets like a needle in his back and they put chemo in there. He's asleep for them, thank God. But
it's like an epidural, not as big, but
basically. But yeah, it's like a lumbar puncture. They put a hole there. So but after he does those, he then does like a week of the prednisone and turns into a total asshole for like 2 weeks because it really changes his personality and it changes what he eats too. So the diet, it's like you just try to give him like healthy stuff, whatever he'll eat. But he definitely goes through these phases. Like right now, it's 2 weeks after he'd been on the prednisone, and all of a sudden it happens every time. He wants an egg sandwich for breakfast, which consists of just 2 scrambled eggs, 2 pieces of toast with ketchup and mustard on it, because that's what he wants. But he'll eat that and then like a banana and a half and like a bowl of cereal. It's 5.
Wow.
2 eggs, 2 pieces of toast.
That's breakfast. All of that.
And that's very specific too.
Oh, and that's what I mean. It's like this. It's really weird. So yeah, he goes through some weird phases. It makes his taste buds different. For a while, he wouldn't eat anything sweet. He doesn't have a sweet tooth anyway, but he just like it like repulsed him. Like sweet things were like, he couldn't handle it. Yeah, these drugs do some weirdness to you, man.
Let me ask you this. So as adults, I think when we run into hardships or things that we have to overcome, I think there's always like how am I going to get through this? Why is this happening to me? That kind of like we start thinking about the situation and analyzing the situation, wondering if we can overcome the situation, kind of sweating the whole thing. As a kid, when he's faced with this, is he understanding kind of like the severity of it? Is he thinking did he express any kind of like, how am I going to get through this? Or is he just in the mindset of like, this is what life is, and I'm just I'm rolling with it, and
like ignorance is bliss type of thing.
Yeah. Or is he cognizant of like, man, this is fucked up what's happening to me right now?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think the age thing has a bit to do with that.
Yeah.
But we've definitely had the conversation that like, this thing could kill you. This thing.
You had
what type of? I don't know how you. Damn.
Yeah. How did? Can you explain how that happened?
That conversation.
I don't even know how it came up. I think he asked me, and then just.
Oh.
We've always just been dead honest with him, and so we explained it to him, and he's like, "How does it work?" So we did like the 5-year-old explanation of how cancer works, and he's like, "Oh, so like the cells don't talk to the other cells, and then these ones decide to never stop." And I was like, "Yeah, that's basically what happens." So he has this understanding about like how it works and stuff. But I do think after a while, he kind of just was like, "This is how it is. This is what I got to do," Because I mean, at the beginning, just as an example of some of the stuff he had to go through, he's got this little port that's under the skin. And when he goes into the hospital, they take this big ass needle and they shove it through his chest into this thing. And, at the beginning I had to like hold him, and he's screaming and he's freaking out. And, now we go in and he's like, "Here's my port," and they like stick the needle in, and he's like, "Eh." You know what I mean? So like he's come to some level, some terms about like, how this thing is. He asks every once in a while if it's ever going to be gone, and things like that. But I feel it's the part where you're like, this, you shouldn't have to think about this when you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Like so unfair. So unfair for all the kids that go through this at this age. It's just because they're right at that edge of like really starting to understand, like, when a bird smashes into the window and dies, like, they have this start to get this sort of understanding of what that means. Like grandma's going to die eventually, or like, they start to talk about it a little. Some kids are totally oblivious at this age, and some are like really starting to grasp it, but having to like force it basically is weird.
And I'd imagine that the balance of emotionally dealing with him and then having to deal with your other children must be tough as well. Like,
yeah. And the way it's all worked out, it's just the part that's kind of sucked, but was also great is like I was running my own business. So I did have the flexibility to just be like, I'm going to the hospital for 4 days. Like, whatever. Hey, client, guess what? My kid has cancer.
Sorry, your shit can wait.
Like nothing else matters in this motherfucking world,
My 4-year-old, I got to go deal with this.
Yeah.
Because there was a good chunk of time there where it was like, if his temperature went to 101, we went to the emergency room. And it happened a lot.
Yeah.
Just the body freaks out. Like, you give it a bunch of these weird drugs, and the response of the body is to fight it, which means a fever.
Right.
But you don't know if it's him just reacting to the medicine, so it's nothing, or because his ANC is 0, he could have a massive infection and could be like in grave danger. So you don't know. So you race into the emergency room and you sit there for 5 hours, and they take his blood and they, all that stuff. So
how do you and your wife deal with, especially with the newborn, like that kind of conflicting emotion of being stressed and scared and concerned about what's going on with your son, but then the joy, trying to enjoy the new life that you've just brought in?
Yeah.
Like that.
Damn,
I gotta imagine there's like a guilt feeling trying to figure out how to.
Tough balance.
Yeah, I don't even know how to like describe it, but like a lot of it went unspoken, just sort of trying to keep that balance. But I think I got really lucky. My wife's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
How did you keep it together? Because I know your wife, you guys were kind of probably trading places as far as who was supporting who, but there had to be many a time where you guys were just both like, I can't. This blow is just too severe. Where did you go? How did you figure out how to like stay the course and be there for you?
Curled up in the corner for like 5 minutes and just
let it out.
Bawled our eyes out to each other, and then we're like, okay, let's do this.
Wow.
No joke. There was one day at the hospital. We were both still there. So she was still pregnant. I think either my mom or her mom was visiting at the time, so it was before COVID, because her mom had to come from California. So they must have had Colin. And Milo was going through some really severe complications with one of the medications. It's called this medicine. It's going to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's called methotrexate. And
It does.
it's a nasty drug. And certain people can get toxicity in their body from it, and it manifests like you're having a stroke.
Oh shit!
So we thought our kid was having a stroke, and they did some imaging on his head. They came back. They told us he had a stroke, and then they walked that back. Said he didn't have a stroke. He had this methotrexate toxicity thing, and that was a point where I'd never seen anything like it, obviously, but my son was like completely some other person and so out of control. It was, you could see it in his eyes. Like he was literally out of his mind.
Like he was possessed.
Possessed and screaming and losing his mind. And I was holding him. I might break down right now because this was so insane. And just looking down at your kid, and it's just like not your kid. And he's screaming and kicking and like biting and out of his mind. And I had to bring him into an MRI and like hold him down on a table while they put him under.
Damn.
And his little eyes roll back in the back of his head and then out. And you're just like, and the two of us literally just like crumpled on the floor in a corner and like lost it for like 10 minutes. And then there's amazing people. There's this whole group of people at the hospital called Child Life. And they're like incredible. They're all about like making sure the kid is comfortable and all this other stuff. And they came over and just like put a hand on my shoulder and Kayla and just like brought us back to reality. But those kinds of moments where you just like are totally vulnerable and completely just emotion just like explodes out of you. And I think I'm lucky that I can do that with her. And I think there are a few times like that where it's just like you just gotta let it out and then regroup and be like, okay, here we go, let's go team. So.
Did you ever go through a time period where you doubted the doctors? Because parents, I for myself, like you're always hearing all these different things, the internet, all this crazy stuff. So then they're going to tell you this is what we're going to do and this is the type of medication, and then you see the effects of the medication. Did you ever go through a period where you doubted what you were being told by the doctors?
I don't think I doubted it. There were a few times. You know what? There's an example of one time that I 100% doubted it, and I actually, at the end of the day, I ended up doing submitting like a formal complaint to the hospital about it. Actually, so when he first went in, they usually with this age kid, they do what's called a PICC line, which is just a peripheral IV that stays in, and they were going to put one in his arm. They couldn't put it in his chest yet. They couldn't put a port in because the mass was so big. So they needed to put it in somewhere peripherally. So they put it in his arm and it didn't work. They couldn't get it in. So then they put one in his leg, down like the femoral artery down in his leg. And they started putting chemo into him one day and he just started screaming and grabbing it down there. So these peripheral lines, because I'm like talking to you guys like you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But essentially it's like a IV in your arm, and it goes like sometimes in your arm, sometimes in your leg. He has his port that's in his chest, and the line itself goes, if it's in your leg, goes all the way through an artery and terminates in your heart. So the medications, when they get administered, go in right into your heart and into like a chamber of your heart, so that it's not concentrated. It goes right into your bloodstream and gets like dissipates
out,
quickly, right? Gets dispersed. So like they tried his arm, didn't work. They tried his leg, and then he's screaming that he's complaining that it hurts in his crotch. So we've got a tube that goes from here to his heart. So why would it hurt in his crotch? So I said, it's just plumbing. There must be a hole in it. And they were like, that doesn't happen. There is not a hole in it. And I was like, no, there's a hole in it. Stop right now. And this is when we decided that like being like Papa Bear, Mama Bear was like, we're not fucking around.
Right.
Like these people are going to, this is my child. I don't care if you're a fucking doctor.
Right.
Yeah. Like you're gonna ultrasound him right now in that area and see what's going on. And then eventually they said, okay, we're going to stop. They stopped. And then at that point, I think the thing had gone down enough. So they were going to put in his port. And that's when they switched to his arm. It was the other way around. Anyway, point being, they took it out and there was a hole in it. They were pumping chemo into his crotch.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So that was the moment where I doubted some people. It wasn't our doctors. Like it wasn't about the medicine. It wasn't about this. It was just about like the technical aspects of what was going on. That happened a couple times. We had this other like anesthesiologist who intubated him during an MRI. So they shoved a breathing tube down his throat for no reason. And he had a port and they put an IV in his arm, which like freaked him out because he was still awake.
Come on, guys.
A couple of things like that, where you're like, and then we found out that particular person like was old school and like whatever. Damn. She had been talked to before. Oh, so anyway, in terms of like those kinds of things, but like in terms of like the overall, big picture stuff, I don't think we ever really questioned them on that stuff. There's a couple of moments. There's this other medication that can sometimes give people blood clots, and it gave him a blood clot in his brain. They wanted
to saying about the complications.
Yeah, right. There's like another one. But he that particular drug, I guess, is pretty important. But and they really wanted to keep giving it to him, but we're like, guys, kid got a blood clot in his brain. Like he's got back pressure on his eyeballs. He's gonna like, oh boy,
there he goes.
I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Yeah, that's fun.
I think his brother just did something, so he got upset. We love these steroids. They make him crazy.
So it sounds like you really got to be like, if you're a parent in these kind of situations, like you can't be afraid to speak up and like go with your gut on things and try to get as much info as possible to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to trust
to control the situation as much as you can, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you got to trust the doctors that they know what they're talking about, but at the same time, you got to know your kid. You do know your kid. You know your kid better than anybody else knows your kid, and how they react to things and stuff like that. Why does this thing keep going? Sorry.
It's all good.
Good.
So things are pretty, I call it more normal now for you guys on the home front. Your routine is pretty established. You guys see a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, you got your ebbs and flows with the medication, but all in all, would you say you guys are out of the worst of it? I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, it's become super normal. Like I know that end of this month, the last Tuesday of the month, probably the 23rd, I think is the last Tuesday of the month. We're going to be going to the clinic. He'll get his lumbar puncture. He'll sleep it off. He'll be annoyed that he can't eat because they have to, you have to do that kind of stuff. No food and all that. Which he does not like. But, and then we'll come home and he'll go on his prednisone for a week and do all that stuff. So yeah, he'll.
Are you back working kind of a normal schedule now?
Sort of, yeah. I actually, since we've chatted, I actually took on a full-time job.
Whoa.
on top of my stuff. It's doing the same things.
Okay.
But an old friend from the back in agency days, when I was back at the agency, approached me and said, "How you doing with COVID and everything?" I was like, "Yeah, business kind of tanked a little bit, but now it's coming back." And he's like, "Do you want to come work for me?" I was like, "What's it look like?" It's like a Fortune 500 company, like, benefits and all that stuff. And I was like, You know what? That sounds great.
Yeah.
About the right time for that.
Yeah.
About the nice time. So, it's a nice position to be in. Like, now I have. Before, there was also the stress of running my own business, and I'm the only one that works in our family right now, so that was another little stress on everything, was like being able to keep paying the bills and everything with all this going on. So it'll be nice, and it's a full remote thing, so
nice.
I'm working out of my backyard in my studio in Brooklyn still, and it's pretty cool. It's for a big wine company, so there's because it is a big giant company. There's like a wine stipend.
I was gonna say that's really clutch.
Nice.
There's like a yearly stipend for wine. Like, I can just go buy wine.
There you go.
Something tells me you could use that every now and then.
So let me ask you
a bit of a change.
Let me ask you this, Tim. Given that you've been through this experience, and it's not over, but you guys have weathered part of this storm so far. What would you tell parents that might be going through something similar right now? Like, what kind of advice would you give them, and what to focus on right now?
What would I do? I just actually had somebody reach out and sort of ask me that. A friend of theirs, their child just got diagnosed with cancer, and I think one of the things we did that really helped was we actually did a journal, one of those like Caring Bridge journals, the thing I sent you that you got to sort of read through. And that sort of like getting it down on paper and writing it out, that catharsis of just like, taking it in, digesting it, getting it out. Okay, I thought about it. I breathed it out of me. I took that breath and got it over there. That really helped. What I thought was going to help, and it didn't actually ever happen, was like talking to other people who have kids with cancer. I think it might have just been because of COVID, honestly. Like, because we go to the clinic and there's like all these other people there with their kids, and you kind of met them, but not really, because they're like, you're all distanced. Y'all had to stay in your little zone, and there was no waiting in the waiting room. So you didn't really get to like meet the other kids, or the other parents. I think it would have been different if it had been like not non-COVID times. Because talking to somebody else who's going through it, even if it's a different kind of cancer, at least going through like a similar situation is always kind of is a thing. We had one friend who we got to do that with a little bit. That kid went through the ringer though. He had like hard tumors all over his body. He had to do this radiation and stuff. Just yikes. So yeah, I think that catharsis, whatever it is for you, like like writing it down or whatever, or if you're more of a people person, you gotta talk to people, get out there and just cry with someone else who's dealing with it.
I think the summary is like, you got to let it out somehow, right? And I think that's the big failure that we guys tend to lean toward, which is like, oh, I'm too big of a man, like a bottle it up, or you really don't look for somebody else to even just have a conversation with. And I think it's journaling is something that is all the rage now, right? Like, everybody's talking about journaling. I still haven't brought myself to doing it, but reading through the Caring Bridge that you sent, like the way you jotted everything down, I'm like, I'm reading through these and I'm like, how did he even have? Like, I would have been upset, right, to try to even sit and write. But for you, you got into a zone where this became therapeutic, it seems.
Yeah. For a while, we did it every day, literally every day.
And we'll put the link to the Caring Bridge in the show notes in case anybody wants to check that out. And if you want to donate, you can also do that there too.
Yeah, I mean, it was it became also for me like the whole, like I was talking about back in the beginning about like how I'm like my mom, like you get into this like the go mode, like yeah, okay, we got to get it done. And I think it was also really helpful for me. I would look back to remember like, okay, what was this medication and what was happening and why, and like, because that's a little bit, that's sort of like a little me, a little bit more like me, I wanted to know like what's happening.
Right.
And now I read back on it and I'm like, oh my God, I wrote that. It was like 2 a.m. I'm like,
it's really good. Like it was very thoughtful. Like I even hate to say like I enjoyed reading it. It was well written. That's what I enjoyed about it. The experiences you chronicled were not fun, but it's like I said, man, it's really big of you and parents that are dealing with this stuff to be able to do stuff like this. Because for us, that haven't had to go through that kind of stuff, like it's really good awareness, right? So that we,
sure.
God forbid, we ever have to deal with that. At least we can sort of understand a little bit, but more than anything, just be empathetic.
I think too, it was for the people in your life. Like they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They don't know how to help. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. And I think the journaling, the Caring Bridge thing was really helpful to a lot of people because they didn't have to ask. Yeah. They didn't have to like get in, like be uncomfortable about asking us about it. Cause at first, what do you say to somebody?
Yeah,
right? Like
no fucking clue.
How are you? Like, don't ask me how I am. I'm terrible. What do you mean?
Right. Right.
But that's what people started doing. They just would follow along with that. And then every once in a while would, leave a comment there or something, or send a quick text to be like, holy shit, that's crazy what just happened, dude.
Right. So Tim, man, I thank you. That's all I can say, man. Thank you for sharing with us and helping our audience understand a little bit about your plight and what your family's been going through.
It's a journey, man. It's a journey for sure.
Yeah. Well, I
definitely appreciate you sharing that because it's that's a lot of personal stuff close to home, brings up emotion and but it's important for people to know about it. Definitely.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, Tim Ireland, ladies and gentlemen, at Ireland Studios on Instagram. IrelandStudios.com is the website. I'm telling you, check out the photo work. It's really dope. Not because he worked with us, but because he's dope.
Holler at him if you need some wine.
Yeah, if you need some wine.
he's got the plug.
The basement has so much wine in it right now that I can't drink.
Well,
I'm not allowed to drink it.
Well, I'll stop by. I'll help you out. Don't worry about it. All right, Tim. Thank you, man. Get back to your family. It's a pleasure.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yo, be a father. If not, why bother, son? A boy can make them, but a man can raise one. Be a father to your child. Be a father to your child.